Hello everyone, Storm 101 here. Today we're going to be having a Tropics update. We're going to have a little update on Hurricane Douglas, and we'll also have an update on Invest 92L. Let's go ahead and get started with Hurricane Douglas. There's been some really good news from Douglas, and it has missed, pretty much missed north of Hawaii. You remember the original central cold forecast was going to go to these central islands here? Well, it just missed them to the north. And you know how the cone in its 30 is. Even though the center of the cone may go here, but you know how large the cone could be. I mean, the cone was at least this far up north and also this far south. So, you know, Douglas went on the north side of that cone. And it could have been worse if it was further south because it's still a hurricane at this point here. It's actually overperforming a little bit here. Really, at this point here for forecasts, it was supposed to be going to be a tropical storm right now, but it's still a strong Category 1 hurricane. We got 90-mile-per-hour winds from Hurricane Douglas. Still dying down. Pressure's at 987 millibars. But these islands right here, it's very hard to tell. But you got islands right here as a threat from Hurricane Douglas here at this time here. If we click on Hurricane Douglas here and go to their cone map, you can see where some of these islands are at. You got a tropical storm watch here. You got a tropical storm warning here, and a hurricane watch. You got a hurricane warning right here. And we do expect this to be a hurricane, really for the rest of today, and eventually tomorrow should be becoming a tropical storm, and really just become a tropical storm from there on out, and then it becoming a tropical depression. So, but yeah, really good news for Hawaii that the worst is really Hurricane Douglas just missed you guys to the north, which is some pretty good news there. But here's its wind history of things here. You can see it's been a hurricane for a while. You also had tropical storm winds on the central and north portions of the islands, had tropical storm winds there. But really, the large island right here didn't really get much of any tropical storm winds. So really, the worst stuff is just missed Hawaii, which is some pretty good news there. Let's move on to the Atlantic. There's what's left of Hannah in central Mexico with 25-mile-per-hour winds. We probably expect this to die today. This is an advisory that's also been issued by the Weather Prediction Center. And this is the system that we're going to be talking about pretty much the rest of this video. Invest 92L. It's got an 80% chance for developing in the next 48 hours and also a 90% chance for the next 5 days. Now, there's been some changes to the forecast since I made the last one, which is a day or two ago. And if we go here to the current storm information, look what has changed here. Remember when we had a spread of models and went from tropical storm to a Category 3 hurricane? We're down to 2 levels, a weak Category 1 into a tropical storm. So we're getting better and better confidence with the intensity of this, which is good news. But one thing to note, Gonzalo, there is one model that nailed Gonzalo. You know which one it is? It's this one right here that just nailed Gonzalo. AVNI. It just really just nailed Gonzalo. You can see its forecast here. Pretty much a just about a weak tropical storm, and it dies down back down to a depression at this point. And this is really the only model at this point here. You have a cluster of models really having a decent agreement with, like right here, of being a tropical storm here. You got one model with a weak Category 1, which may be overdone, but it's possible. Now, let me show you guys why the models keep on getting weaker and weaker by each run here. Let's look into the GFS. The biggest player with this system here, well, two things. One thing is, where's it going to go? If it goes south, into the Caribbean, like right in here, it could be weaker. But if it goes north, which is looking to be the likely way of going, could be a little bit stronger. However, what some people are missing out here is the wind shear. And you'll see your system pop up on the screen soon. Here it is right here. Here's your system. This is the GFS 6Z run. And there's your system right here. And you can see it just hits, well, it runs into, a lot of wind shear. I mean, 50 knots of wind shear is a lot. Over 50. You can see how it runs into that wind shear. And wind shear typically just tears storms apart. You can see, and bam. Pretty much at this point here, your system is gone. Basically the wind shear just really just killed the system overall. What wind shear does is when you have winds going into different directions, low level winds is probably where it's going to take that system, but the upper level winds is going different directions. So when you have them cross each other, it just really just tears the storm apart there. And that's just the GFS here, which I believe this is the only model that has this. Maybe not. Never mind. The Canadian has it. And again, the same solution here from the Canadian. Tons of wind shear out ahead of it. Let's see if we got any other models here. Doesn't look like the Icon has it, but you get the idea. There's going to be a lot of wind shear out ahead of the storm. Let's move back to the GFS here. And it's currently doing the 12Z run, but we're going to look into the 6Z run. And the GFS is just backed off really the intensity of the storm. Another factor is some dry air. Not a whole lot, but some dry air. That's actually what killed Gonzalo the last time, was dry air. You can see how it runs into a little bit dry air, just not a lot, but really the biggest story is just going to be the wind shear. And so I made a map here. I have my forecast for the intensity of this system here. The green area is where it's most favorable. You don't really have any wind shear at all. You have a lot of moisture going on. So really it's favorable for hurricanes to develop. Excuse me. However, as you kind of move towards the red area, the yellow area here, it's not so favorable. That means where you have a little bit of dry air and a little bit of wind shear. So really at this point here, it'll just kind of pause the intensity. Then when you get to the red area, basically the environment is just not favorable at all. You have high amounts of wind shear going on, and you also have some dry air, which includes the Bahamas as well, and even the east coast of Florida, at least portions of the east coast. And really from there, we're not really sure what's gonna be happening in this area here quite just yet. And this could also be a fish storm here if it makes it through here. So really the biggest question here is it gonna make it through this high amount of wind shear? If it doesn't, the United States will not have a threat from this storm. But if it does make it through, then the United States will have uh need to pay attention to this. Now, this is a big if. If it makes it through this high amount of wind shear, really almost the entire East Coast needs to watch this storm here. Anywhere from Florida up to Massachusetts, basically. I'm not really going to include Maine, although there is a model that does show it becoming a hurricane, making landfall in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, into Maine, but I have doubts on that. And that's also pretty far out because your system's right here. It will start to move fairly quickly too. So keep in mind of that. So really, this system here doesn't really have a good chance, in my opinion, to make it through this just because of wind shear, especially very high amounts will be 50 plus knots. This basically will really just kill the storm altogether. Really. Now here's my intensity percentages. This is at least for the green area here. This will likely develop, no doubt about it. At least into a tropical depression and a tropical storm. However, there's a chance it could overperform. So I'm giving it a 50-50 shot of becoming a Category 1 hurricane, which will be our second hurricane in the Atlantic hurricane season. Um, at least the 2020. Um, but yeah, really for a Category 2 to 5, there's no chance of that at all. But there is a chance of this becoming a Category 1 hurricane. There is a chance for it. Just to keep in mind of that. If it just overperforms. But one model I will be keeping an eye on is this one here, which I think this is probably the most accurate model right now. Now, I think it's a little bit weak in the 60 to 72 hour time frame. I think it could be a pretty much a little bit more stronger, like where these models here are at that point, and then just dies down. I think a model that's a little bit more accurate than this model here is this guy right here, the CTCI model. You can see this will be pretty much be my forecast here, kind of peaking around strong tropical storm, maybe even a weak Category 1 hurricane, and then it just goes downhill from there. I disagree with these models here. These models here just did not do a good job at all with Gonzalo, but this model here just nailed Gonzalo, so I will watch these two models here closely, and this is also where the trends have been going over the past quite a few runs, and it's just, the intensity just keeps on going down and down. So really the confidence of this becoming a Category 1 hurricane is just going down, but there is a chance that this could overperform. It just depends if it can get organized. And we could take a look to Invest 92L here. We're going to let that load. While that loads, let's take a look to some of the tracks here. So the most accurate models that I said at this point here is this model right here and this one. We're actually starting to get a couple models not even turn at all, actually go towards the Gulf. We're going to see what's going to happen there. And really, anywhere past the Bahamas or Dominican Republic, and really beyond that, we don't really know where it's going to go from there yet. Really, the highest confidence is where we have a lot of confidence is where it is right now to like this point right here. Anywhere past like the 96 hours, which you see these numbers here, 96, which that means the hour of this storm here. Really, anywhere from there, we just don't know yet. So, but that's really all we know now. Now, I'm pretty sure whenever the Hurricane Center makes their forecast here, the cone is probably going to be a little bit large, especially at this point here where we're starting to see some models actually continuing northwest. But we're gonna see what's gonna happen here. You can see this is Invest 92L, which the National Hurricane Center said it got pretty disorganized overnight. So it's hard to tell where the circulation is really at all. It's a very broad low, I would say. You got a lot of convection going on right over there off the screen, but it's somewhere in here. It's very hard to tell, which seems like it's right here is your circulation. So, again, just like very broad low, and really typically broad low pressure systems can have a hard time develop. They could take a harder time, but with smaller systems like Gonzalo, they could develop quickly. It could get organized better. But with broad low pressure systems, uh, yeah, it still has a lot of work to do to become like a little bit more of an organized system. Going back to the model tracks here, you can see where some of the Canadian, uh, that's not the Canadian. Yeah, this is the CMC. Um, you can see where some of these models take it. Some of these could be a fish storm, which it means just really doesn't hit any land, just stays over water pretty much the entire time. Meanwhile, some of these here, takes a hit to the United States, like this one here. For example, hits Florida, goes over the Carolinas, even portions of Georgia, really just almost the entire East Coast. So, but I will not let the guard down yet for right now. So I will still say there is still a little bit of a threat for the East Coast of the United States. at this point here, just to be safe to say for right now. And we'll take a look to the GFS Ensembles really quickly. You can see here, numbers has actually gone up a little bit, but I have doubts on this here. I mean, again, I don't really know. We No one really knows what's going to happen right past at this point here, because some models are starting to trend this way. So really, we just do not know from really anywhere from Cuba to the Bahamas and just beyond from there. But anyways, guys, this is all I can for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this tropical update. If you guys would like this tropical update, hit that like button. If you really do like my channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, you can put in the comment section down below. I will answer your guys' questions. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.